Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach, and today we have with us Robert Clinkenbeard, who is the founder of the Radix Group. He's an author and he's an Ironman. Robert, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Mike.
Hey, so I'm excited to learn about your business and how you work with your clients, and really excited about talking about your book because it's focused on mindset, and I love mindset because, boy, that just is the foundation of so many things. And I really like when people really create their book content around something in their lifestyle, like, hey, I'm ex-military, so I'm going to take the lessons I learned from the military, or in your case, an Ironman. So I really am excited to learn from you. Give us a little bit of background on yourself and then what led you into the field and the industry that you're in currently.
No, absolutely. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, so a little bit of background about me. I think the pivotal moment for me was after a vacation out to Arizona and went back to Scotland. I realized I just wasn't in a good place. The weather was terrible. I'd just been through a divorce. And I just felt as though there's some great people in Scotland, some of the nicest people in the world, but they weren't effectively elevating me up. So I think after coming back from that trip to Arizona, I felt, I needed to make a change. So I moved out to Arizona back in 1999. And 2 years after that, I started up my business. I had a large commercial landscape company, which I grew, to 350 plus employees. And that was a great learning experience. I made a ton of mistakes through growing that business and hiring the wrong people, having cash flow issues, the typical issues that you see in growing a business. And I got to the point where, I had some partnership challenges, and I just didn't feel happy again, that I just again wanted to make a change to again lift me and elevate me up again. So I sold that company and moved into a coaching role where I felt as though, how can I help lift other people up, especially around business? So that's what I'm doing. I'm just going around the country and up into Canada and trying to make a positive impact on other people.
It's so neat when people can, these days, create a business or a consulting, coaching firm around their passions, what they're good at, their lifestyle. And decades ago, that was not as easy as the case. You would work at a company, and if you wanted to go into business for yourself, you would have to quit. You would have to buy a franchise or start a company and have a lot of risk. These days, you can say, you know what, I've got a unique skill set, and I'm going to teach other people my mistakes. And I love how upfront you are. Hey, I scaled up my company, and I made a ton of mistakes, but that is something that should draw people toward you, because what did you learn from those mistakes? How would you prevent making those again? So let's not cover all of them, because we'd be here about 3.5 weeks. But when you're talking about scaling up your company, what were some of the things and decisions and mistakes that you made that you learned along the way?
No, absolutely. I think the first thing that springs to mind is making sure that you have the right people around you. Often we have people that join us in the journey of growing the company, but they're not necessarily the same people, the right people to take your company to the next level. So I went through a stage probably about maybe 8-9 years into my business where I felt I needed a leadership team to help me almost work on the business. So carefully chose some people that effectively became my leadership team, and I coached them and mentored them. So, that allowed me to work more on the business and allowed me to do some of my crazy sporting activities. So I would say probably that was the first and foremost thing that helped me.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds so easy to say, hire the right people or don't hire the wrong people. And let's check that box. Well, that is such a hard thing to do or not do. So obviously, when you think about growing a company or scaling a company, you can't do it all yourself. And one of the hardest things that a CEO needs to realize is at some point, there's only so many hours in the day and only one of that person, that CEO. So how can I delegate? How can I bring other people on? So you had at one point over 350 employees?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, and within 4 branches in Phoenix, and then we had another branch up in Vegas. So, we were spread, different places.
So I know your book is focused on mindset, and I really want to kind of tie into that, but the Ironman Mindset for entrepreneurs. So give us a little bit of background. Obviously, the Ironman races are the foundation for that. So, how did that tie into one day going, I need to write a book about mindset? And then what are some of the mindset characteristics that people need to be, maybe some of the top ones that are easy to kind of relate to that entrepreneurs can relate or implement in their business?
No, absolutely. I think one of the first things I felt needed to happen was setting your goals. Where's the company going? It's the same with my Ironman race. Initially, I used to play a lot of rugby, and my body started to fall apart playing rugby. So I moved into doing smaller running and sprint races, and I had no concept. It wasn't even on my radar to think about doing an Ironman race. And eventually, being surrounded by the right people, I started to set those higher goals. Let's do a Olympic race. Let's do a half Ironman. Let's do an Ironman race. And I just started to set those loftier goals, and then figured out a way. What do I need to do to get to that point? Let's start looking at training plans. Let's looking at my scheduling. How can I fit in 20 plus hours a week of training into my busy life anyway? And it's the same goes in business. Once you set those goals and where you're going in 5-10 years, then you need to build that roadmap and how you're going to get there and who are the people around you that's going to help achieve that. So I think that's how I try to tie together the two plans within my book.
Yeah. So then let's think about what's a mindset number one. What's the first thing that we need to be thinking about that you would draw from your Ironman experience? One thing I heard that you just said is kind of, set goals. That's obvious, but set incremental goals. Don't set massive goals. Like I right now probably could run 2 miles, 3 miles. So it would not be smart for me to set a goal to do an Ironman next month. So set attainable goals, right?
Exactly. I mean, and if you've not been training at all, then just, take a walk around the block. And then the next day you might go a little bit further. But I think it's always good to set those mini goals and mini wins, because that's what keeps you motivated. I think if you set too lofty a goal, you get disappointed.
That's something that people, I think they gloss over, and they what is the SMART? Set your goals SMART, and stretch goals. Well, I feel like these mini goals that lead to the stretch goals are overlooked. Because if you set too big of a stretch goal, you're going to get demotivated and probably give up altogether, potentially. And so when you get these little mini wins, it keeps your own momentum going and drawing you toward that bigger goal. Have you seen that in yourself and how you wrote in your book?
No, absolutely. Because I used to set myself a challenge of I'm every week maybe go an extra couple miles, and it just those little wins help me along the way, because whether it be in business or whether it be in personal life, you're always going to get those setbacks. You're always going to get knocked down, whether it be legal issues in business or some personal challenges. So you have to counterbalance that with those little small wins, and that's what keeps you motivated.
Yeah. So after you kind of get goals and some small wins set in place, what's another mindset that entrepreneurs need to have in mind to look at scaling their company up and growing?
I think one of the biggest ones that I'm a firm believer in is leaning into your fear. And I have a quote I I use a lot is only good things happen on the other side of fear. So a lot of people get intimidated by, maybe uncomfortable situations or setting too lofty goals or just something that's outside their comfort zone. And I'm a big believer is, head that fear, head on and lean into it. Because typically if you do that, on the other side of that, there's going to be some benefit. You're going to have some type of a learning experience. And that's the thing I've really learned over, since I moved from Scotland is, here I moved across the States with a couple of suitcases. I had no social security number, no credit history. So, it was a pretty fearful situation for me. Yeah. But I look back at what I've experienced over the last 20 years and had all these different challenges. And yeah, some I've failed at, some I've, won at, but I've learned along the way.
Yeah, when you were describing that, it reminded me of risk. People should take risk, right? So it's similar to lean into your fear. But you should also be careful with risk and be careful with, addressing and blasting through your fear, because I feel like you should take calculated risk, not just risk. Well, that might mean, I'm going to take a risk of starting my business, but the calculated side might be, I'm not going to quit my job first. I'm going to get some help and some advice. Well, in the fear, it doesn't mean I'm afraid of, let's say starting my own business, so I'm just going to jump in with both feet and do it and figure it out as I go. Well, maybe you need to take a calculated approach to, approaching and leaning into your fear. How would you recommend an entrepreneur do that?
No, I agree with you 100%. And I think that goes on to my next point, which is surround yourself with the right people. That could be coaches, it could be mentors, it could be other business people. Because more than likely they have gone through similar scenarios. A lot of people in business are really willing to share what they've gone through. So make sure you surround yourself with the right people so you can calculate what those risks are. Maybe you have a plan B or plan C if things don't go the right way, but more than likely somebody within your network has experienced something that you're about to embark on.
Yeah, that's really a big piece. And something else that I think is really important is having maybe like a peer group, call it a mastermind, or mentors in your group, because if you can get yourself surrounded by people that are maybe even so that you're not the smartest person in the room, so that they're above your level, and maybe in different industries even. So there's something to be said for let's mastermind with people in my same industry, but getting with people that are successful in different industries, not for the purpose of give me deals or give me but just being that mastermind, that mindset. Is that something that you have benefited from or recommend to entrepreneurs also?
No, absolutely. I've now been part of a group called EO, which is the Entrepreneurs Organization.
Oh, yeah.
And that's been part of that for 11 years. And again, I have a group I meet with once a month, and there's 8-9 people in that group, and all different industries. But that type of group where you can bounce ideas off is great. And now I run 9 different peer groups around the country, all in a similar industry, but same type of thing. They could brainstorm with each other, they're talking to each other every couple of days, and it's just accelerating their learning a lot better than being on their own island and trying to figure it out themselves.
Yes, and then that gives you the ability to even turn it around and help other people in that group from the lessons you've learned in life, in business. So it becomes that accountability. It becomes that aspect of watching for something good to help someone else. And then that primes the pump for someone to be watching out for something good to help you. So I just really love your approach to taking incremental goals and taking the Ironman foundation and turning that into business principles to help entrepreneurs grow. So I think that is just spectacular. Well, Robert, thank you for coming on today. What is the best way people can reach out, connect with you, and pick up a copy of your book?
No, absolutely. The people can contact me through LinkedIn, through Robert Clinkenbeard. They could contact me through my website, which is the radixgroupllc.com. And I'd love to be able to provide a free PDF copy of my book. If people could text Radix, RADIX, to 33777. And that's again Radix to 33777.
Excellent. Well, I will make sure that is in the show notes as well. And thank you so much for coming on the program today, Robert. I really appreciate your time.
No, thank you very much, Mike. Take care. Appreciate your time today.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.